Leander, nice of you to join me today to our JavaPro JCON interview. I see you had two talks at JCON. We will dive into this just a minute, but before that, I want to talk a little bit about yourself. And I saw you're part-time lecturer on testing and quality assurance. Is it right?
Yes, that's right. That's a master's degree here at the Rosenheim University. This is where I kind of made my computer science degree as well. I've been there as a part-time lecturer for 4 years now, I think, initially in cloud computing, and now I have this master's degree in software quality assurance, yes.
Hey, great. Not every day that you can talk to somebody who has a part-time teaching job. And how does this affect your work as a Java or software architect?
Well, it's 1 day off work during the semester. So it's usually 1 day I spent there with the preparation of the course, which is, yeah, that changed a lot now. You need to prepare a lot more. You need to record videos because of the remote situation we're in right now, because we don't have face-to-face lectures anymore.
Yeah, crazy times. Okay, let's dive into your talks. You had two talks at JCON, which had a great audience also. And the one talk was about running Kubernetes on workstations on edge devices.
Yes.
How did you come up with this topic?
Well, I came up with this topic by, well, exploring new technologies, you know, playing around with Raspberry Pis. And that was kind of pretty straightforward to just explore how you can use cloud native technology on these devices. And in the video, what you can see is the live demo I did. I kind of did the live demo on those devices I play around with occasionally. This is my cloud coffer, we say in German. It's a suitcase, it's a carry-on suitcase that contains, you know, 5 small computers. There's a router in there and a switch and even an access point. So this is totally autonomous, that thing, and that kind of runs a Kubernetes cluster, and but not a full-blown. So the two distributions I presented, the one was Micro-K8s and the other one was K3s. And Micro-K8s, in my opinion, really good on a workstation, works really well there. And on those hardware devices, on the Raspberry Pis, I usually use the K3s because it's a bit smaller and a bit more lightweight.
And that's impressive. Did you have something in mind when you came up with the idea to build a suitcase full of Raspberry Pis?
Well, the initial idea of the suitcase dates back to, well, conferences where we usually have, as a company, we kind of have a booth there, right? And you know, Wi-Fi on conferences sometimes a bit flaky, so you want to be autonomous and not rely on, you know, the Wi-Fi working. And if you want to have a cool demo at your booth, it's always good to bring your own hardware, so you don't need to rely on, you know, the Wi-Fi working all the time. And that was kind of the initial thought where we said, okay, let's build one of those suitcases. And the next thing is, I mean, it's real hardware. It's easy to debug. It's easier to understand the technology when you can kind of log into the hardware and kind of, you know, type around. You connect the keyboard, you connect the screen. It's kind of more hands-on, you know. Okay.
So a great application from a real-world use case, and all of this is to be seen in your video. We'll put the links in the description later on. And the second talk was about efficient DevOps tooling for Java and GraalVM.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, yeah. Well, where to start? I'm a big fan of GraalVM. I remember, and that's why I picked this background image here. You know, when I used to go to Java 1, I remember the talks by Michael Wirtinger, I think his name is. I think that dates back 4 years or even 5 years when the first versions of GraalVM were presented there, version 0.28 or something, really early versions. And I was so impressed about this technology that I kind of, you know, followed them all along. And now GraalVM is everywhere, right? You have Micronaut, you have Quarkus as microservice frameworks. But what I was interested in is, can I use GraalVM for plain Java programs, especially? And if you're if you're a DevOps engineer or a software engineer that has more to do with infrastructure and ops tasks, usually you would find, I don't know, Python scripts, maybe a bit of JavaScript, maybe Ruby. Well, you will find about any language besides Java.
Mm-hmm.
And which is a shame, I think, because you're really efficient. If you're a well-grounded Java developer, I mean, you would want to implement everything in Java because it's kind of the language and the ecosystem you know best, right?
Right.
I mean, Go is a cool language as well, but you would have to learn Go and you would have to learn the Go ecosystem. So why not stay within your comfort zone, right? The language you're most comfortable with, but still be able to, well, compile native binaries that you can then easily copy to, a target server, for example, or you can use in a CI/CD pipeline, or you can put into a Docker container to maybe build some operators and do all this in Java. And that was kind of the motivation. How far can you go with GraalVM and plain Java programs, and how much does it help you in the DevOps tooling space?
Okay, so what I understand is that the most important part of using GraalVM in this place is using native image, right?
Yes. That was
okay.
kind of the goal to go. And what I used in the video is a small framework called Pico CLI. So that is a Java framework where that pretty much helps you to, well, in the first place, build nice command line applications. But you could use Pico CLI with plain Java as well. But what they also bring is kind of a neat integration with GraalVM. So that kind of helps you with generating this, the reflection config file and all the required config file to get the native image compiler, working nicely.
Okay. Well, why do you need those reflection helpers there?
Well, I mean, in the Java world, reflection is pretty common, right? Any data binding framework, for example, if you want to deserialize a JSON structure to a POJO, it usually works via reflection, and reflection out of the box is not supported by GraalVM. So what you need to give it during the compilation process is kind of the information, hey, dear native image compiler, please include the metadata of all those classes I tell you in this file here. So later on, the reflection stuff is still working, even though you're in a native image environment.
Yeah, great. So from what I understand, this is one part of the support you get, and the other one is building nice CLI applications. So this is something comparable to Apache Common CLI or any other CLI framework, right?
Exactly, and JCommander, and there are many other CLI frameworks available there. What I like on the Pico CLI is that it's really nice and neat. Well, you put in a few annotations on the fields. You get out of the box help support, command line completion, command line coloring. So we get so many nice and neat features with this small framework that really help you to build great command line applications. And in the cloud native universe, command line applications are everywhere. You have a Docker CLI, you have the kubectl, you have an AWS CLI if you want, or if you're on Google Cloud. So CLIs everywhere, right? And it makes a real good difference if you have a nice CLI that kind of helps you save some typing, for example. As engineers, we want to be efficient. We don't like to type, or if we have to type like 4, 5, 6 commands in a row, what do? Well, we write a small shell script that kind of reduces those 5 lines to 1 command, and that's the idea behind command line interfaces. So they're really important in modern times, I think.
Also, you forgot it looks much cooler to hack on a terminal with the green font than clicking on a UI. So
yes,
it looks important what you're doing. So your job gets much cooler with CLIs, right?
Especially on conference videos. Exactly.
Yeah. So what is a good point to start if I want to start with this technology? Of course, I want to watch your talk, and what do I do then?
Well, if you want to get started quickly, then just follow, the quick start documentation of Pico CLI. This is a one-pager, and just follow along. And I'm pretty sure, 5 or 6 minutes, it does only take you to have the first Hello World Pico CLI application that you can then cross-compile to native image. So the documentation, in my opinion, is really good. So it should not take you, much time and effort to get the first skeleton running of your application, and then, of course, you have to implement the logic you want. And well, on the time speaking, then at some point you will start to use external dependencies. This is then the point where it usually gets a bit nasty because many dependencies are not quite Graal ready yet. So you have to do a bit of manual tinkering to get it to work, but all solvable.
That sounds like a talk for JCON next year, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Happy to join again.
Yeah, you're welcome to. Leander, thank you for taking the time. Great topics you have there. We'll have the videos online on this channel. Thank you for taking the time. Subscribe to this channel. I really appreciate your time, and stay safe. Thanks.
Yes, you too. Thanks.